Can information exist before the Big Bang, which created the physical presence of dimensions? Yes. Information does not become mass. Information is not a physical object. Information does not require a physical medium in order to exist. Information can exist between an encoder and decoder, but information being sent is not a physical object. You can have information. Information is the encoder which existed prior to a decoder. Information can create from a state of absence of time and create information. Quantum information theory recognizes the presence of information within the subatomic level. The act of existence requires information present in order to acknowledge the presence of physical states. People use communication systems in order to transfer information between two physical states. However, that being transferred carries non-physical intent. Can you have information without mass? Yes. Information is not a physical object. It's not mass. Can information exist without gravity, volume, density, electromagnetic force, black holes, vacuum, or dimensions? Yes. The physical presence in actions of states projects information about their physical presence. Intent projects the non-physical presence of information, and information projects the presence of reality. Quantum information theory shows that we are not simply deduced into atoms, but rather atoms break down into bits of information. Where does information come from? Can information exist without intelligence? If information is not physical, invisible, then its source must also be not physical, invisible. Eternal is the absence of a physical beginning, absence of a physical end, absence of forward time. A fruit cannot fall far from its source. A fruit cannot fall far from a tree. A fruit cannot fall far from the tree. Therefore, a fruit cannot fall far from its source. A dimensionless fruit, information, cannot fall far from its source. Its eternal source is information. Eternal information is God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. What existed before information? Nothing. Nothing can exist before information. That which has no physical beginning, no physical end, absent of time, is the uncaused cause, which causes effects from an uncaused state. Some will suggest that we cannot know what exists before the Big Bang. Those who say such things usually say this because they realize that they have to deny the obvious. So, what exactly occurs that makes people come to such conclusions? They say that we cannot know, we cannot predict with certainty what occurs beyond the Big Bang, because even though everything regresses into a finite dimensional state after the Big Bang, then suddenly uncertainty arises. It pops into existence out of nowhere. Now, what uncertainty am I talking about? I'm talking about the Heisenburg Uncertainty Principle. The act of not being able to determine what lies before the Big Bang with certainty, predictability, and determinism? Ah, I see. In short, things that are caused into existence leave a predictable trail behind them via cause and effect. Kalam's law declares that everything that begins to exist requires a cause. So, the only reason we have dimensions is because of the expansion of spatial dimensions after the Big Bang. The only reason we have volume is because volume requires dimensions. The only reason we have vacuum within the cosmos is because we require a dimensional field, structure, and gravity, which requires dimensional mass in order for it, gravity, to exist. The only reason we have black holes is because the dimensional mass. Kalam's law declares that everything that begins to exist requires a cause. So, the only reason we have dimensions is because of the expansion of spatial dimensions after the Big Bang. The only reason we have volume is because volume requires dimensions. The only reason we have vacuum within the cosmos is because it requires a dimensional field structure and gravity, which requires a dimensional mass in order for it, gravity, to actually exist. The only reason you can have an infinite dense state is because density requires compressed dimensions in order for it to exist. The only reason that the electromagnetic field exists is because gravity, which requires dimensional mass, exists, and because the expansion force of the Big Bang created the dimensions in order for the emergence of two-dimensional waves, which are used in order to create the positive and the negative charges within the cosmos. The only reason you can have any of the elementary fundamental particles, which cannot be deduced smaller because they are the foundation of all existence, is because these fundamental particles are composed of dimensional structures which were created after the Big Bang. If you build a dimensional foundation, then all the effects built upon it will fall once this dimensional foundation, cause and effect, is destroyed via a beginning state. However, how about God? I mean, if all things have a physical dimensional beginning, so must God, correct? Let's see what can exist within an eternal state according to Kalam's law, shall we? That which begins. Did you catch that? That which begins to exist requires a cause. Must I repeat that? That which begins to exist in physical form must require a cause. Now, let's see. So, that which never begins to exist in physical form never requires a cause. Does that sound familiar to you? Does information have a physical beginning? Is it a physical object? Does it have a physical dimension? Is it governed by time, forward time,